From chaos to 3 days a week. Your business should work harder than you do, but it only happens when you build it systematically from the beginning. Today we're talking about the family first business model. So one of my clients was drowning in calls. She had all these sales calls, individual coaching calls, group sessions, admin calls, working evenings and weekends. It was difficult, and she's got a family. But now she works 3 focused days a week. She's got a business model positioned for 6 figures per month. Plus, she just generated $75,000 from a single social media post. So I'm going to walk through exactly what happened with this transformation, and I'll give you a framework you can apply to your own service business. I'm James Schramko. After 17 years of coaching entrepreneurs, I can spot patterns that separate those who scale from those who just get busier. And this case study reveals this methodology. So my service provider, I'm going to keep anonymous for this case study because she is an authoritative coach in her own space, and I don't want to take away from that. I want to revel in the wins that we've had, but keep it under the radar. So she was doing dozens of weekly calls across multiple programs. She had sales calls, one-to-one calls, group calls, admin calls, and no systematic structure. And she was absolutely maxed out. Plus, some of the calls were at night, so her family's wondering where dinner is and she hasn't cooked it, and she's missing out on sports activities and stuff. And this is like draining. And after 9 years, it's kind of burnout mode. And so just to keep up with the client demands and all the admin and stuff, she's completely maxed out. She had 4 different programs when I looked in under the hood, and this was really creating decision fatigue for both her and even her prospects. There's a lot of things to choose from. So this is what I see a lot. Most people don't understand with service business success that every single new client feels like a win, a validation, but you're actually building more complexity. Every time you have a new thing, you've now got to actually fulfill with those clients. So getting the clients can be a drain, fulfilling for the clients can be a drain. So every new client equals personal delivery time. And so that's why you want to have some leverage. If you have no capacity because you're always maxing out with the clients, you don't have time to think or to restructure or to build in the things that take the pressure off, because you're always in delivery mode or chasing customer mode, and it's reactive. Your clients are basically just in every pocket of your calendar, which is a nightmare. And success is now feeling like more of a constraint. Like you got your business to have some freedom and control, but your calendar has you by the balls. So success, rather than being amazing, is like a bit of a burden on your back. And then now your identity gets tied to being busy, and you feel like you're missing out, and you get overwhelmed, you get tired, you can get unhealthy, and time can slip by, and then you think, well, where am I going with life? Sometimes people think, gosh, it was just easy when I had a job. And the other thing is you often hit a revenue ceiling. If you don't have this kind of leverage, you've sold all your available time inventory, and now you've maxed out the amount you can earn. So my client was getting one-time 25,000K jobs, but then the clients would disappear after a few months. 6 months later, they're gone. You're back on to the next thing. So what we did is we brought in maintenance programs that would actually help them stick around. So this constant client acquisition pressure, which was happening with Facebook ads, sales calls, can actually ease back a bit because now there'll be recurring revenue. And it also helps with that time capped growth, because instead of having to allocate time for one-to-one people, you can actually serve multiple people on a maintenance program. So she was making good money, but trapped, and the business was just pulling all her energy from her. Clients need stuff, and then you got to go get more of them, and then they leave, and then you got to get more. So what we needed was a bit of strategic thinking and turn off the income generating activities, the getting the customer part, which is counterintuitive for most people, and fix the business model. So I actually ran her scenario through all my diagnostics. Obviously, I've built myself the most incredible strategic analysis toolkit available on the planet. I ran it all through. I came up with some solutions, and then we've started implementing them. So I'm going to share what some of that looks like. The patterns were very clear. So when we looked at the 40-hour per week of time put into the business, a lot of it was going into client delivery, and I think 15 plus hours were on sales and admin. The evening and the weekends were getting eaten up as well, and it definitely affects family. So there was no protected time, and that's where we want to do our business development or actually live our life. So I'm big on protecting time. I protect huge blocks of my week. I think I've been working a 2 or 3 day work week for about 8 years now, maybe 10. And I'm a big fan of it because you get to recharge, you get to think. And remember, the top 500 CEOs, they're spending about half their week with diary blocked so they can think and strategize. That's why you can't easily get them on the phone or have meetings with them. The problem is you get into a revenue dependency. So when we analysed it, most of her revenue was coming from personal delivery. There was no real scalable assets being utilised, and the energy is just going across the board from sales to fulfillment. The clients have a few different packages to choose from, and sometimes they get confused. Now, as someone who's run this analysis on my own business and simplified it down to one main core product, which is just Mentor, I can really relate to this. It's so much simpler when you have less things to talk about or focus on, and when they're really well leveraged. So my diagnostic revealed something crucial, and it wasn't a marketing problem. She's really good at marketing and selling. Not even a sales problem. It was a business model problem. And this is a recurring theme. Almost everyone has a less optimized business model than they could have. And you don't solve business model problems with marketing tactics. So the core issue was that every single dollar that she's earning requires more personal time. So you start to sort of shut down. Like, I don't want another client because then I'm going to have to serve them. No leverage, no systemization, no scalability built into that fundamental structure. So we started the change. So the first phase was a program architecture redesign. And we went from 4 programs, which was creating decision paralysis, to 2 clear pathways with very obvious progression. There was this new core program, which was $2,500 per month for 10 months. And then they were in a themed group calls with multiple time options, exactly how I run Mentor, coincidentally. Capacity was 8 to 12 people per call versus previously it was maxed at 3. It was actually capped at 3, and this was considered by her a benefit to the client. But when we queried the clients, they didn't think it was a benefit. They actually would prefer to have a few more people there. It is counterintuitive. And often of the 3, 2 or 1 wouldn't show up. So there's just one person anyway. So we went for an 8 to 12 person model, knowing that not everyone's going to show up all the time. And now there's a clear curriculum with defined outcomes. With the ongoing program, that's the second layer, there's an ongoing investment recurring forever. And that is the recurring revenue breakthrough. Because when you go from 3 or 6 months recurring to 6 or 7 or 8 years, that's when your customer lifetime value is like hundreds, even 1,000% more. It's ridiculous how much more profitable it can be. And so there's still continued support after the initial phase, and that just stops the drop-off cliff that was there before. It was just like client was paying and then gone. So there's a little bit of community and peer learning and long-term relationship building, and people will stay in a community if they feel they're getting supported, nurtured, they're connected. So why this works is just a very clear value ladder. The client understands the progression. It's easier to sell. The recurring revenue eliminates that acquisition treadmill, and that gives you so many more options at the front of the bus. You don't have to do the Facebook ads to sales calls if you don't want to, and I'll talk about how we're dealing with that. You've got a way higher lifetime value. It goes from like 25,000 to about 80,000 per client. The next phase was the schedule change. So we went from just chaos across 5 days, it was scattered call times, to 3 work days with focused structure. You can use a lot of tools, like you can even connect Claude or GPT up to your calendar and have it analyze and suggest where to move things. That's a great feature you can do. I know for a fact you can squeeze a whole work week into just a few days. So now the new weekly structure is a strategy and implementation chunk. There is the foundations calls, which is just one evening per night, because sometimes you have to cater for different time zones. I do an evening call once a week, every week, for my UK people, just because of where I live. And then there's marketing and growth sessions for the clients. The sales calls only happen one day a week. And now they're more qualifying calls because of the pre-marketing we're rolling out. So now the family's protected. They basically get mum back every other day. So 2 full days, that's entire Mondays and Fridays, completely off work, protected from work, uninterruptible, not negotiable. The clients adapt instantly. They understand when they can communicate with you or not. You can still use async if you need to communicate with clients, but no scheduled calls. So the evening interruptions are gone. The weekend work doesn't have to happen at all. And this psychological shift is like you're back in control. You now have freedom. You go from reactive to strategic. You are you're determining which parts of your calendar you will give up for others and which parts you will take for you and your family. So you're now no longer client controlled, and you have boundaries and guardrails in place. Everything changes then. You get better sleep. You feel more enthusiastic about your work. You are more motivated. You're more powerful when you do work with clients because it's on your terms. And the next phase is we went into leverage. We just started multiplying the system. So the group dynamics thing was huge. Going from 3 people to 8 to 12, peer learning amplification. They love it. They're solving each other's problems. They recognize they're not alone on the journey. It's more dynamic and interesting than just droning it out with one other person. And I've been there. I don't do one-to-one calls anymore. I don't even do sales calls. You don't have to do this in business if you don't want to. And there's reduced coach dependency when you have a little bit of leverage from other people in the group. The community building increases retention and the clients are happier, so satisfaction's there. Loyalty's there. They keep paying. The accountability with each other emerges naturally. You find people get on with each other, they connect, they support each other. They even do it in schools. They even match people from the year below and the year above in some school settings where they're sort of seeing emerging leaders and also getting peer support. So the math really changed everything. Before there was all these individual calls across multiple programs, and now there's like less than half the calls with a higher impact per call. It caters for the fact that not everyone shows up. If you have a program with 10 people in it, and if it's every week, you'll probably get 6 or 7 show. Somewhere between 30 to 40% won't show every single week. Some people will show every week. Some people will never show. And then some people will show up from time to time, or different people show up from time to time. But it sort of works out that way in my experience. Revenue per hour went from a small amount to a big amount. I think it was 3 to 4 times per hour, the effective hourly rates. It's a measurement I love, and it just shot up. The next phase was the content and lead generation system. So we went from pretty much zero, like it was just Facebook ads to sales calls. We did an industry-specific assessment, like a consumer checklist that people could get immediate value for, and it qualifies leads. And we gave that as an opt-in, as a lead magnet with a professional landing page. I actually prototyped a landing page in lovable.dev. It was beautiful. My client was able to copy that across into Go High Level with their web helper. And they now are starting to capture emails for the first time in 9 years with a 5 email nurture sequence. And yeah, my program, Hammond AI, it actually took in my client's calls. It took in my client's delivery. It wrote the guide. It wrote the emails. It wrote the landing page. And all of it was created using the most incredible tool set to just suck in all of the client's details and put it back in her voice. She looked at it and said, "Oh my God, this is like, it's like I wrote this." Yes. This is a huge, huge, huge thing, because in the last 5 years ago, I'd have to wait weeks for the client to go and find someone to get the thing written or to follow a framework or whatever. But now I just provide it. Here you go. It's in a document. Cut and paste this into your email system or onto your web page. Even use the vibe coding. It doesn't matter. You can be up and running today, not next week or next month. It's huge. And the email nurture sequence have real life case studies from her social proof, from her actual success stories. They're automated, of course, you know how that works. So people opt in for this really valuable thing, and then they get follow-up emails inviting a call at this stage, but we could get rid of the call if we want. But those people coming on the call, they're already pre-sold to some extent. They're pre-marketed to, they know what it's all about. They're ready, they're interested. And also at the same time as this, we had this real social media breakthrough. So while we built the email system, we crafted a really good social media post. One post generated 3 25K clients. So that's a $75,000 post in the right place with the right framework, with authority positioning, using a specific tool to generate this post. It just hit the nail right where it needed to be. It had very measurable results. It uses pattern recognition insights that demonstrate deep expertise. So when she posted in this particular place with this properly formatted framework with a proof case study, it was just dynamite for that audience. And they have a very clear pathway from social engagement to getting in touch. And so why do most transformations fail? I often reflect on this because this is my main job, is to help people. I help them see the mess they're in. I give them a plan on how to implement it, and often I give them the assets to do it as well. They do understand the principles conceptually. Like I say things, but there's often a lot of fear comes up. It's a change. It's something different. The implementation is where sometimes the wheels fall off. And the common failure points are people try and change everything at once, which I wouldn't recommend, or the client pushes back on new boundaries without the proper positioning strategies, or there's just fear of losing revenue or stopping the income while we do this, causing a premature sort of reversal of motivation. So other things that can hamper people, like they just don't have a system for content creation or lead generation. Maybe there's no team or leverage for them to get things done, or the accountability structure for following on through the difficult decisions, because you get, it's like whack-a-mole in a way, this entrepreneurial thing. You fix one thing, there's another thing, because your problems get bigger and more aggressive. So let's talk a bit about that psychology of change resistance. The internal resistance sometimes is because your identity is tied to being busy. You've watched like 20 million Vaynerchuk videos or Hormozi videos, and you suddenly think that your life will be the back of a taxi cab texting or going, working 7 days a week. But I've called this the family freedom model, because if you're like me, you have kids and you actually want to do things other than work, then that's not going to fly, right? So being busy sucks. It's actually taking you away from your kids. It's taking you away from your hobbies. It's taking you away from living the life. So I'm not talking to the person with no kids and wants to work 7 days a week and your entire identity is made up of making $100 million. Go for it. I'm not saying you shouldn't have that goal. I'm saying that that's not the person that I'm helping with this episode. If your quiet time feels unproductive, or you feel FOMO, or you can't possibly go and see a movie in a cinema during a weekday, or Netflix is a guilty sin, then I'm talking to you. Maybe your identity is tied with being busy, being a hustle person. Maybe you have fear of client abandonment when setting boundaries. So this is so common. How many times do I have people where their clients are paying too little for the service that they're being provided, where they feel if they talk to the client about it, they'll lose the client? I've even been through this recently. When I turned off my community with around 80 members, I was a little concerned some of them would be upset, because we've been doing it for 16 years. But you know what they said? They all said, we wondered when this day would come. You provide way too much value for the amount we pay. Thank you so much for everything we've learned. We really appreciate it. It was like a super weight off my shoulders, because it was one of the main reasons that I kept it, because I didn't want to abandon the very nice people who were in that membership. But at the same time, for me to be everything I need to be for my mentor clients and my partners, it had to go. And so I've been through that process recently, but I take people through this all the time. When you set boundaries, sometimes you will lose a client, same with family, but that's showing you the boundaries worked, and it means that the new people in your system will adhere to the boundaries, and that's when you get your life back. You go from 6-7 days a week to 3 days. There's also perfection paralysis, preventing systematic implementation. Like I've seen this. I've worked with someone very closely for a while there, a few weeks back, and they just needed all their ducks lined up, and they're just stacking and stacking and stacking out. They keep asking for more assets and more assets, but nothing's coming through. And I know that it will probably all just fall over because they're not implementing. So I am actually very deliberate in only issuing one asset at a time and make sure it sticks, and then the next one and the next one. That actually takes discipline from me to judge what the right rate is. And then, of course, imposter syndrome. Charging premium prices, delivering an amazing service. It's difficult for some people to adjust to that, but that's a process that can be overcome as well. And then, of course, there's external resistance. We've still got clients telling you all the time what other people will do and what they need and what they want to know. I have this all the time. I had a client trying to tell me the other day what I should have in my program. And when I did a full-on analysis, like I did screenshots, strategy analysis, historical records, and put all the data, it was like a 99% absolutely do not do this under any circumstance. So sometimes your clients have your best interests in place, but they're coming from their own place of fear when they suggest something. Industry norms, that's also, who gives a shit what everyone in your industry does? Most of them are wrong. The vast majority of businesses go broke, and we want to look outside our industry for best practice. This is really the truest value I bring for my mentor clients. I see what works in many industries and I bring it to my clients straight away. Do this, it works, and they do, and it works. That is awesome. But just because someone else in your industry isn't doing it is never a good reason not to try it. And then there's, of course, the family adjustment. Like if you actually suddenly you got 2 days off a week you weren't used to having, that can really throw you in a loop. It's like, oh my God, I've got so much freedom. What do I do now? Like, imagine someone who's been in the army or whatever. They went to school, they go to the army, they've been told what to do their entire life, and now they don't get told what to do today. That can be paralyzing. And then there is the market education, of course. You need to put in effort and time to reposition. That sometimes means lifting the values of your design, having better team members, having minimum standards for work that goes out. But the good news is you don't have to do a lot. You just have to do less, but really better. Less but better. I love that saying. It's from Dieter Rams, less but better. It is such a great design philosophy. So every business does have unique constraints, right? Client dynamics, market realities. General advice can sometimes collide with specific industry contexts, and that's why you can't just do cut and paste templates. You can't just read a book and follow whatever worked for that person. There is context required. There are variables. There are different client sophistication levels. There are different expected price points. There's different warmth of leads. There are personality types in whole markets. There's a vast difference between personal development and technical fields, and it does impact how you approach the implementation. Also, there's different industry timing, expectations. Some sales take longer. If you're selling airplanes or ships or cars, they can often take longer than selling an ebook. And they do require customized boundary setting and relationships with clients. So there's also personal psychology patterns. Each person is different, and things that other people will take feedback and implement it straight away. Other ones will get really butthurt and introspective and just locked down, right? So you have to be mindful of how you take this information and what you're going to take away from it. With your existing client relationships, they do need transition management. That's why proper education emails, signaling how things are going to change, why they're changing, what they're changing to, providing pathways for support is very important. And then your marketing position. For people to accept you, they have to see you as the person they need for that next part of the journey. So the difference between knowing what to do, like you've listened to this and you've got some good ideas, maybe there's some takeaways for you, but the difference between that and successfully implementing is whether you are the type of person who will just write it down and do it, or if you'd like some help with it, some guided transformation. That's possibly where I help with Mentor. And so what I do is I actually take in all the inputs and then I create a plan, and then we do week by week transition management. We check in on a group call. We do async back and forth, one-to-one, with just you and me, and we will protect your revenue during that model transition. I never suggest swinging for the trees. We will have all the client communication scripts and materials required that will position the changes and the upgrades that are going to happen. I will definitely help you with boundary setting frameworks. I'm getting so much stronger at that, especially since I've been learning more from Jamin Fraser about this. Content creation systems, the same sort of things that my client used to generate leads. I've worked on different ways to acquire clients and convert people. And obviously, I do podcasts and social media myself. Feedback loops, so I can review and check everything and make sure it's on track and then provide upgrades. So I definitely use tools. I've got, I think, 27 different frameworks now in my toolkit. I do all the business strategy analysis. I will reveal hidden opportunities, and whatever's holding you back, it will surface. I've got so much data now because I've put decades worth into it, and I've spent hundreds and hundreds of hours training it. And you will get an implementation roadmap. If you're the kind of person who just wants the next 3 steps, I can give you that. If you want the next 100, I can do that too. But the chances are by the time you get to step 20 or 30, we will have needed to change something slightly that changes the rest of it. And so we do real-time problem solving. We fix any kind of pushback you've got or psychology issues, no issue. Even how to communicate with your team. Obviously, with having a recruitment business and hiring and running a team of VAs, we're pretty strong with the team side of things as well. But accountability is where I think I'm really helpful. I can hold your feet to the fire. I can check your progress. We can review it. We can keep it on track. And the tool set just makes it easy now. Plus, you're hanging out with some other people on a similar journey in the weekly group calls. And so I think the ROI is huge. The cost of trying it yourself could be very big if you get it wrong or you make the wrong moves or you don't have as an advanced tool set. And sometimes when you're making big changes for your clients or pricing or whatever, you should just hire a professional. It's like when I'm doing a legal contract or something, I hire a lawyer. If I want to learn how to build muscle strength, I hire a personal trainer. Like, just get help with the thing you want to learn. So here are some universal principles for a service business. The consolidation strategy looks like this, right? Audit your current offerings. Identify where you're scattering your energy and what are your decision fatigue points, like what's really burning you out. Then map your client journey and see what is a clear and obvious progression for them from where they're at to where they need to be in the least confusing way possible. And then always design recurring touch points. I'm just huge on this. It doesn't matter whether it's a membership, a royalty, a retainer. For service businesses, a retainer is a very obvious one. And just eliminate that acquisition need. Like, if you didn't have to spend 99% of your life trying to get another customer through the door and you spent 99% of your time just looking after existing clients on a recurring machine, then life becomes easy. Build group leverage. I would recommend that if you're doing a high-level one-to-one, see how a group might play into that. I still have a hybrid. I do one-to-one async back and forth with my clients, but I don't do one-to-one calls because they're not leveraged for me or my clients. And you can still amplify the impact without that personal time dependency. We also have opportunities, I think, to help people with software or to augment software to be more effective at what you do. You can these days build agentic workflows. You can build apps. You can build operation systems for the regular AI tools that are available. If you're still like prompting ChatGPT as if it's Google, then, oh my God, like I can help you a lot in getting way further down the track. I feel like people are missing out so much on that. There's almost no bottleneck you can't fix with an agentic workflow, an app, or an operating system. So identify all of the non-negotiable constraints. Family time, personal health, strategic thinking. So not just money. What do you want your life to look like? Identify that and design it into your life. Like, design that systematic structure. Themed days, protected hours. Have when you are available, when you're not available. I actually deleted my scheduler after listening to a Naval Ravikant episode. There is no scheduler for book a call with James. It doesn't exist. And it's changed my life. Create your positioning strategy. What are your boundaries? Where does your premium service indicator happen? So for me, my starting point where I work with people is $2,500 per month. There's no contract and they can hire me for a month if they want. But that is the boundary of where we start, and it's so much easier to align all of my marketing and my communication around that. You can implement accounting measures from that point. So build systems. These days you can use tools like you can hook things up, like even Claude, for example, can do reminders if you connect it up to things. You can do Slack alerts. You can set calendar alerts. You can have feedback loops. You can build agentic workflows, but have feedback coming back. For me, I always look back which episodes of my podcast caused me to be able to create the most value for my clients. Usually they're the ones that generate clients for me because they're getting a massive return on investment. And so I loop that back into the future. And I say, like, that's a good framework to work with. That even informs episodes like this. How can I show a transformation and give massive value at the same time as helping people understand the way that we can move forward together? It's always good to understand industry-specific applications. Okay, so there are typical things with professional services, lawyers, accountants, consultants. They are often trapped in billable models. But look at service providers like PricewaterhouseCoopers. They don't even hire juniors anymore. They've got internal AI tools that handle everything up to leadership level. And that's where they're going to be leveraging. We should be doing that. I am doing that. You should be doing that perhaps. Build toolkits to get leverage. The group advisory, very good for you to deliver for your clients in the same way that I do mine. I know a lot of my clients just take what I do and apply it to the way that they do their business. And it works in heaps of different markets, which is encouraging, but always with the context of flavoring it for their market, for their personality, for their skill sets. So many buttons and dials, like a DJ, you can twist and turn to make it so customizable. Coaching and training. So I think you should get the best advice you can. Get a practitioner who knows the path to help you. Get into a program with other people in a group, or where you have some accountability, sounding board, whatever, mine or someone else's. Do it, because that's how you get ahead. If you're in creative services, then you'll want to be looking at automation for project management and client interfaces, designers, writers, agencies. You've got lots of small projects. Package them into recurring creative partnerships, retainers. Work on your fulfillment system, automate, create software to take inputs and generate outputs. You can do this now. It's here now. For technical services like IT, developers, managing scattered client demands, again, systematic maintenance programs, group training sessions. The replication checklist looks like this. The time audit. Track every hour for a week. Where do you spend your time? What does the pattern look like? Revenue analytics. What's your lifetime value and recurring percentage? What's your one-time versus recurring? What is your revenue and profit per product line? If you've got 4 products or 5 products, I'm almost certain one of them is dog shit and you should stop it. And one of them is probably way better than you realize, and you should do more of that. Client satisfaction mapping. So are you getting testimonials? Do you get referrals? Do you know who your best customers are? Do you chase your VIPs? How do you identify those people? What do you do with them? Boundary assessment. Define non-negotiable personal constraints and be firm with it. And then your marketing position. Evaluate, where are you in the market? What's your position? What is your moat? What is your unique mechanism? How do you evaluate where you sit compared to others in your market? Like my market, it's quite funny. You've got the Bali baller bros doing their tax evasion thing. And lifestyle pictures. You've got the pretty picture colouring crayon mob doing razzle dazzle dancing songs. You've got some hardcore M&A type coaches who are suited for scaling big ventures. You've got the workaholic hustle set. You've got the young guns doing their agency thing, or whatever the model is that spans your DMs all day long. And then you've got someone like me. I'm just a family person with real business experience who doesn't want to work 7 days a week, who wants a 7-figure business, has a small team and a very solid track record. But where I've really focused and leaned in is developing my AI capability to be as sharp as the bleeding edge. So that's where my advantage comes for my clients, because it's not even a fair race, the people we're competing against with the way we do it. They have the minimum time inputs together and the maximum output. You figure out your market position. What does that look like for you? The transformation reality, right, is you can go from chaos to a 3-day focused work day, and you can have 6-figure monthly potential, maybe even more. But it's not happening because you're working harder. It's not happening because you're finding more time in the day. There's still only 24 hours. It's not time management tips, and it's not light touch AI trickery. It's happening because of systematic redesigning of the business. And what I do more than anything now is whenever I'm working on a project is I break it down to 0, and I work with the founding principles to build it back up. I don't try and renovate. People often bring me like a shack with broken windows and a busted roof, and we bulldoze it and we put a brand new building up, a beautiful, bright, shining concrete glass structure, like an amazing business where there was a shack before. Stop renovating and trying to fix a busted business. Just smash it down and build a brand new one beside it. Get that working and then bulldoze it if you want. That's fine. But you will be rewarded for strategic behavior instead of reactive busyness. Doing the right things is the game. So if you can align your business model with your lifestyle priorities, if you systematically implement rather than just nodding your head and saying, yeah, this sounds good, if you get some help to take you through that, the predictable implementation challenges that are going to inevitably crop up, none the least is your old business model tugging on you. If you get a bit of community support, you can win. The principles that I've shared today are about program consolidation, boundary protection, recurring revenue design, group leverage, and these are straightforward concepts, but the implementation is where most people need the help. So if you want systematic implementation support to get these transformations completed successfully, that's what I provide in my mentoring program. I'm not just giving you a strategy. I'm not just giving you the assets. I'm not just showing you how this all works. I will be making sure that we protect your revenue, your client relationships, and your sanity through that transformation. All the details are at jamesschramko.com. Hope you've enjoyed this. Your business should work harder than you do, but it only happens when you build it systematically from the beginning. Let me show you how.
This is James Schramko.